Hi everybody, and this is Jimmy from Jimmy Does Knitting, and welcome to my channel. So, I thought I'd start off with a couple of admin things. In the last couple of videos, I introduced myself as JD, which is the name that I actually go for, but there's other people in the knitting community, in the knitting sphere, that are skinny blonde boys that have knitting shows with the initials JD. And I figured I did not want to get confused with them, so I'd go with Jimmy. My name is James. I think Jimmy Does Knitting is a good one. I wanted to do Jimmy Knits, but there's already a designer called Jimmy Knits, and I didn't want to take her stuff. So here we are, episode 3. The deal is I was going to try this for 3 episodes, push them out, make a YouTube channel, see what happens. I'm not sure what the production value of this is going to be, but I was looking at a lot of videos already and they were okay with like a lower production value, and I still found them interesting. So we'll see how this goes, but yeah, I'll publish a couple and get people's toes a little wet in the water, and then we'll go from there and see what happens. We have a new location today. The lighting was so terrible in the last video, but I didn't want to reshoot it. And that was in my living room. So right now I am upstairs and I'm sitting on a yoga block, and there's a window right over there. So hopefully it's more direct light. I don't know if you can see the stuff that I'm knitting on so well because once again it's dark, but yeah, so we'll go from there. So picking up from last podcast, there are a couple things that I would like to take care of. Now, this is not going to go into your regular podcast order because that's just not what's going to happen today. What's going to happen today is I'm just going to talk about the stuff I want to. So, first of all, Jiaogu needles. I got these for, well, my birthday. I just bought them because I wanted to buy them. And I'm telling you what, these are my new sweater needles because the Addy Clicks are nice, but these ones, there was no like twisting. It was really good. I got the steel ones, and I got the set from like, I don't know, 2.75 to 10 or something like that. And they're fantastic. I love using them. Highly recommend them. They have a sharper point, which is really good, especially because I've been doing some color work, which I will get to next. And yeah, so really like these. I mean, they're standard. Everybody knows about them, but can't recommend them enough. So, in the last video, we talked about my little haul, and I was like, oh, it's a secret project. It's not really a secret project, but it's doing whatever. So, Unwind Knitwear is a designer based out of the UK. Her name is Rachel. She's lovely. And she wanted to do a test knit of her existing patterns. So she has a bunch of really good colorwork patterns that are already out, and they're tested and they're fine. But she wanted to see how beginner knitters did things. I have been knitting for a year-ish, and I've never done color work. So I was like, okay, I'll do a full fingering weight, full color work thing. Why not? Yeah, I'm a confident knitter, and so I figured, why not? So there was a pattern called the Nightbook that I was like stalking, and I had some ideas for, and she was like, oh, I'm doing this test knit. And I was like, I have to do this. Now, I don't think she realized I was a man when I applied, and I got in, and so I was like, well, do I need to do anything for the shaping? And she was like, oh, maybe the shoulders, but I don't know. So her designs are obviously for a female form, but I have quite narrow shoulders, so it didn't really make much of a difference. We'll talk about that modification that I did on it. But yeah, so I came in last time with some Holst and some bicycle yarn that I got at Stephen and Penelope. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. So, started some swatching. And then this was the first swatch that I got. Her patterns are really nice, and this is like a medallion that would go in the center of the thing that I decided to colorwork swatch on because it was the most dynamic piece. And this is with Holst yarn, and I bought it because I was like, I'm never going to wear this because it has color in it, but I really want to make this garment because it's going to be beautiful with the way that I did it, or at least I think so. Sort of southwestern colors, and we'll see. So I got this, and I knit it up. apparently harder color work is not as hard as I thought it was, and it went really smoothly. But like always, I have terrible tension, and the recommended needle side was 3.25, and I did not get gauge. This is the 3.25 swatch. Is it? Yes. And nowhere near gauge. I know I was a tight knitter, but I didn't think I was that tight, but it looked beautiful. Also, I washed this up. I was on the fence about Holst because I was knitting my Brette Scarf, and I was like, is this good? It's really holy. I don't know. I really like it. It's like a little bit more rustic because it's really toothy yarn, but it is also soft. It's not like Marino soft or something else like that, or like a plant fiber. It's a bit rougher, but it's definitely next to skin wary, and I really like the texture of it. It feels like a yarn, like a really like good wool yarn. And this fabric swatch plumped up quite nicely, and I liked it. But this would not do, so I jumped up to a size 4mm needle, did the same swatch over again. It worked fantastic, and we were off to go. But I mean, look at the size difference. It's really just a tremendous amount. It's probably, I don't know, an inch longer, something like that. So yeah, that brings me back to my point of swatching. I don't like swatching. It's something that I realized that I need to do. I messed up a couple of sweaters. In the last episode, I said my Whisper sweater, which I did swatch for and I got gauge for, but something was wrong with the fit. I'm not really quite sure what happened with it. It went all wrong. And I tore it out after the episode, almost immediately after the episode, which we'll get to. And for this, I was like, well, with color work, I know I need to swatch, because if I would have gone with this, I would have made a child sweater, and I would have not been able to wear it, and that would have been terrible. So, swatching is good. Knowing some maths is going to be very important to me. I knit continentally. I don't know if that has the impact on it, or if it's just because I'm really stressed out, like at all times, and like Mr. Anxiety, and that's why my knitting is so tight. I'm really not quite sure, but that's a thing. So, we have the sweater. We have started the sweater. We are almost done with the body. I'm working on the ribbing right now, on the very bottom, and it is beautiful. So I did a neckband in some bicycle yarn black that I had left over, and it went really well, and it has a little bit more fluff than the Holst. It's a lot smoother. It's a bit more premium, and yeah, it shows a little bit, but it's nice. And then I also used this yellow color for bicycle. I'm terrible at remembering these things, so the show notes I think will make pretty comprehensive, so you know what it is. It'll have the link to the pattern and some information about the yarn, and I'll put the colors in there. And there's this extended yoke part right here. There was another color chart that you could use for like the XL sizes, and she's like, well, we recommend if you wanted a little longer to use this chart rather than the one you did. So I knit like the big XL chart, and I think it worked out well. It fits really well in a way that a lot of my garments haven't recently, and once again, I think that had to do with the swatch. Another modification I made is that the pattern in between right here is not this. I decided to make it a transition area. There is these like black stripes, and there's a little bit of color work. The way that she's intending you to knit this is with a contrast color and a main color, and that's it. And I decided not to do that. But I'm not mad at it. I actually really like this, and I think that the modification helps blend the areas together maybe a little bit more. Super fun to knit. I started this like 3 weeks ago, and it's almost done with the front. It's like really fun to knit. It's going well. I think it fits well too. I can't say enough about this. It's just really nice, and I would say to check it out. So yellow and the black up here were the bicycle yarn. Everything else was Holst. I got a ink for the black on the top part, And then when I ran out of that, I was going to use my cone, but it's still on the Brette, and I have no intention of filling that anytime soon. So I bought black for the cone, and they're close enough. You can't really even tell the difference on this. You can when they're together, but it doesn't really matter. I used Poppy for the red. I think this is like Lark. I could be wrong with that. And then on the bottom, it's Indigo. And then I extended the ribbing. It's a twisted rib. I extended that. I'm going to make it about 3 inches long as opposed to, she said 20 rows. I would rather do that because I like a longer ribbing anyway than the additional color work that she suggested. I didn't think that it went well with this motif. If anything, I was going to do this row again down here, and that would make it longer, but after trying it on, I didn't need it. I just needed 3 inches of ribbing, so that's what I'm going to do. So hopefully this will be done, well, the body will be done this weekend, next week, and we can start on some sleeves, man. Get this going. It's very exciting. Super happy with it. I made a bunch of modifications. The Holst yarn is actually all right to work with. I know I've heard some horror stories, but like I really like it, and I think that it's going to give me the product that I absolutely want to have. So it's really nice. And with that, let's compare this ink and the black. I don't even know if it will show up on screen. I mean, maybe a little bit, but this is the ink. It has a little bit more of a blue undertone, and then this is the black. I just ordered the cones online. I think I prefer the ink, really, but it's not too far off. If I was going to do a sweater, I wouldn't mix these 2 cones if it was only like a fingering weight or whatever. But if they're the color work or if they're separate, I think it's completely fine. They look close enough. I just thought it was a little strange, but whatever works, man. I like knitting on a cone. I like having just a bunch of black yarn around just in case, because you never know. So yeah, which brings us to the Brette Scarf. It's the same as it was before, man. I got a lot more done. Oh, that looks a lot more transparent. I got a lot more done on it. I had a convention that I had to work, and I had to oversee a bunch of stuff. And one of the days, I just worked on this for like 10 hours while I was supervising a construction crew. And then I was going to also do a hat that never ended up happening. So it's about like hip height. I want it about as tall as me. I'm like 183, so like 183, 2 meters. And I just want to have this like scarf that's huge and wraps around and is like super warm for the winter, because why not? I want to do 1 scarf per winter and 1 hat per winter. And I have forgotten the hat downstairs that I'm working on, but I cast on a new hat. This is the Brette update. We will go into the hat update. Hat update is I'm making another Oslo hat, and I'm making it out of Tandem, which is also a West wool, and it is in black. It was from the first sweater I ever made, which was the Redford sweater, and I had like a skein and a half, maybe even 2 left over, and I'm just going to use it to make an Oslo hat. And it is relatively short. It's maybe like 1 inch or 2 at the moment, so there's not really anything to discuss about it, but it was downstairs anyway. But I made a pink Oslo hat. This is one of my stash busting over crochet yarn things, and I made a pink one. I like this hat. I really do. I think the folded over brim is such a nice detail with the stitched in right here. It makes such a good thing. This is the first time I had done it, and then I also did a folded over neckband for the Nightbook sweater, and I just really like it. It's super simple. It's mostly knitting. I modified the crown a little bit. I went with the amount of decreases, but I did like a slip knit, and then a knit as opposed to like a yarn over sort of thing, which I didn't like so much on my last one, so I modified it. I mean, a little bit, not a whole lot, but it looks good, man. It's gonna fit well. I'm never gonna wear this. I'm gonna put this in my train hat pile, which is a pile of hats that I have that I knit on the train going to work. And I will give them away once I have like 10. I'll just bring some into work and say, does anybody want some knit items? But yes, this is the finished object. There's gonna be another one in black, surprise. And I'm very excited about it. And yeah, it's really good, just like clearing your head knitting. I also finished, ta-da, oh. Ta-da, the sweater for my boyfriend. This thing is huge. He is not, I mean, he's more muscular than me, but he also wanted a really oversized sweater. This is a self-designed pattern with a drop shoulder and a split hem over here. He basically said, I want it to look like this, make it for me. So I did. It's out of dropped cotton merino in, I don't know, probably black and natural. And I swatched for it. I actually got, with that information, like the right stitch count to make this sweater. And it fits really well, and I'm super excited about it. It was a fast knit. It was an easy knit. It took a longer bit of time because I'm not used to knitting such large garments, but it was good. And I bought like almost the exact right amount of black yarn. I have some, I think 2 balls left over of the white, but the black I used like most of 8 balls maybe. And it was really cutting it close. But it looks nice, and we're thrilled with it. The problem is he won't wear it because it's hot here in Amsterdam. It's like a summer that we've never had. And he is like, it's too hot, I can't do this. So we will see. I'm going to try to get some good pictures, put it up on Ravelry, see what happens. I'm trying to be better about documenting my knitting. Right now it's so-so. I don't really know social media very well. I just choose to ignore the rules. I guess I just do it wrong. I just do it however I want to do it. And I don't really engage stuff, but I've been trying to be better on Instagram, and then we'll see what happens with this podcast thing, and we'll get some stuff going. The Rowan yarn. This is the last thing I have to talk about. I just work a lot on like 1 or 2 things during the month. I don't really have, 12 whips and everything. I'm a fairly monogamous knitter, and because of that, I whipped up a swatch for you all just to discuss something today because I didn't have anything else. But the Rowan yarn, which was the tweedy yarn I was going to do, I was like, after I'm done with either my scarf or my sweater, I'll combine it with the Holst and make a sweater on it. It's like, okay, what now? I talked to Sam with Irish Farm Art, and he, I remember a while back, did I'm going to make a Guernsey, which is like a North Sea fisherman's sweater with like certain patterns and certain things to certain towns. And I was like, okay, I want something thick. I want something that's going to be warm. And that's all I wanted in the first place with this sweater. And I just did not get it. And also the Rowan is a lighter yarn. So I figured with the Holst, we're gonna go for it. Anyway, I made this swatch. These are not the colors I'm going to be using. The black is the Rowan, and I'm going to use a black Holst, but for the swatch, I just used the leftover of the poppy color that I had from my Nightbook sweater, and it's a pretty good swatch. I knit, and generally, I do like DK with 4 millimeters. I do worsted with 5 millimeters, and I wanted this to be a little thicker. So with a DK and a fine, which I think both were a little bit light, I did it on a 4.5 millimeter needle, and it looks pretty good. It looks pretty thick. I still have to block this, so we'll see what happens when this gets some water on it, I know that the Holst really blooms, so hopefully it will actually get a little thicker. But yeah, I want to do a worsted weight fisherman sweater. And as I was doing some research, I got some books. I got 2 books. Knitting from the Netherlands, and then this is patterns for Guernseys, jerseys, and Arans. So I started with the Guernsey thing, and I looked it up. I didn't like anything that I found online. Really, it just wasn't for me. It felt like either very old man or not the exact motif that I wanted. I just wanted something a little simple. And I was like, okay, now I have to make these things. So I bought some books, and in my research, I learned that it's the North Sea stuff, and what Sam was talking about was the UK things, but there's also a big tradition of it in the Netherlands, and all the different villages had something that they would do. The sweaters were typically blue. They were knit by the wives and mothers and the daughters, and they would go out. I think a couple of the villages had slightly different colors, but they all had a specific pattern that they would use. And some of these pictures in here are wild. I mean, like, look at these guys. It's just a moment into time. They did a really good job of documenting the different villages on here, but I don't think that she did a great job with the patterns, because it was basically like just do a regular drop shoulder pattern, where this one was talking about like gussets that they had, and it had a little bit more shaping and stuff to them. So I don't know the exact construction I'm going to use, but probably will be something pretty simple. And then I'm just going to design using several of the motifs. I don't know, thing about right here that I think would look good, and maybe something on the arms. And there was one village that I really liked their stuff from. Now, they're not the most politically correct village in the Netherlands, but they had beautiful sweaters a couple 100 years ago. But what happened was they would knit it, and they would knit it like double the size, and then they would put it in boiling hot water to set it, and it would shrink. And I'm not going to do that, which is why I wanted a little bit of a denser fabric. I'm going to put it in cool water so it does not shrink. But I do want like a winter, a hardy sweater, and since I live in the Netherlands, I thought it would be good to have something that related back to it, even if it's not specifically it. I drew up a design for it, but we'll figure that out a little bit more once I'm able to get something off of my needles and I can concentrate on this again. I maybe also want to make one for my dad. I think that might be a good one for him. He probably wants something in red, but like really nice bougie yarn. And if I can figure that one out and do some patterning, I might be able to figure out how to do a couple of different ones and just have like a template that I could switch in and out. But that is all to be written, all to be seen, and yeah. So that's my exciting knitting adventure, my exciting knitting talk. It's a whole, I mean, I did a lot of knitting, but it's just not a lot to show because it's just so much of one or two things, which, I mean, it's fine. It makes me happy, but on the other hand, it's like, all right, these videos are pretty short and a little boring. I think that's it. So, if you see this, it's made it to the light of day. I have a new YouTube channel. Welcome. Share with your friends. See if this is something that you're interested in. And we'll continue making these short little videos and putting them out there every month. And get in contact if you need anything. I'd be really happy to talk to more people about knitting. Right now, it's just me insanely just like talking to my boyfriend. He absolutely hates it. He can't stand it. So anything that you want to say, we'll start off some conversations and see where things go. Anyway, have a good weekend. It's Pride in Amsterdam this weekend. So happy Pride. I hope you all enjoyed the sun. you're staying cool, that you're staying busy, and that you're relaxing when you need to. And I will check you later. Bye.